Now is the time for new ideas and ambitions. A community working together to solve challenges facing society. Where the unknown meets the known. Blending research and discovery with learning. We are asking tough questions, collaborating across disciplines, and transforming lives. Today, we begin leading the public research university of the future. The University of Texas at Austin. We are the university of what's next.
Well, I believe that international students find the University of Texas at Austin attractive for a number of reasons. One of which is obviously the location. We have a marvelous location and climate there in Texas. A little hot, but I think they find it more conducive, many of them, to their own climates and locales from where they are originally from. Also, too, we have a large number of high-quality programs, over 120 departments on our campus. So everything from accounting to zoology, international students can find. We truly want to make certain that our international student population can perform in the classroom, and as teaching assistants and assistant instructors, that they have the English proficiency, both the knowledge and the speaking skills, to be in our classrooms and to perform in front of our classrooms. So for us then, the test of English as a foreign language is a very critical tool in this whole assessment piece, especially in my office, the Office of Admissions of the University of Texas at Austin. The University of Texas at Austin, we have been using TOEFL now for a number of years. Indeed, we're one of the largest users of the test in the country. However, it is this third version that TOEFL now has. First, of course, the paper, then the computer-based test, and now the internet-based test that we at the University of Texas find so actually valuable and wonderful. It takes the four skills, it integrates them in such a way that if you have the reading portion, you still have to be able to understand the language, speak it, and listen to. In each of the sections, you have to use all of those skills again and again and again, over and over, so that one doesn't have just a reading ability as opposed to a listening ability. You've got to have it all if you want to succeed on this test. And for us, that's more getting at the realistic in-class performance assessment than just simply a paper number that you see a series of scores.
When I was coming out of high school, I really wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to treat patients directly. What really made the change was when I joined Dr. Georgiou's protein engineering lab. I entered not knowing much at all about protein engineering, but I just saw graduate students, postdocs, just working together to engineer actual therapeutic proteins.
So this is a very collaborative lab. There's usually postdocs and graduate students collaborating on high-profile projects together, and Dr. Georgiou recruits really diverse people.
In our research group, we have engineers and immunologists and microbiologists and chemists all working together and all benefiting from each other's expertise. And that has been a key ingredient in creating the magic, if you will.
The lab has a personality to try just about anything, and that's why I love it here.
It wasn't at all about the following of protocols, but instead about scientific innovation and creativity. And it was a way that I could actually apply what I learned to solve real-world problems.
We end up doing a lot of basic science here, but why not do basic science in something that might have a real-world application, you know, like in antibody to anthrax, or an enzyme that cures a cancer, or diagnostic tool, or a strain of bacteria that makes production of some other therapeutic possible. We have an eye towards what is it good for? What's the product? What's the purpose?
Proteins control almost every biological function that you can think of. The fact that we have the technology now to manipulate them really opens the doors to so many possibilities.
Currently, engineered protein drugs represent the fastest growing class of therapeutics in the pharmaceutical industry.
Think about cancer treatment. The gold standard today for cancer treatment is chemotherapy. And while it saves many lives, it is actually quite a blunt approach.
Engineered protein therapeutics have a very precise function as opposed to chemotherapeutic agents which have multiple targets in the body, and therefore they typically give rise to very serious side effects. The vast majority of therapeutics are being initially discovered at universities. Industry is very good at developing products, but the initial discovery, the innovation, has to come from an environment where you have a very interdisciplinary group of scientists working together and coming up with new ideas. These ideas can be nurtured, and these ideas can be realized because of the freedom of the academic environment. Universities are great engines of innovation.
From the beginning of my presidency, I've stated my belief that the University of Texas at Austin can and should be the best public university in America.
For the past 9 years, Bill Powers has challenged the University of Texas at Austin to rise to its full potential and been a champion for the soul of the public research university. Raised in Los Angeles, Powers studied at UC Berkeley and Harvard and served as a naval officer. In 1977, he joined the UT Law faculty and quickly became a favorite professor and leading scholar in the field of tort law. As dean, Powers rose to national prominence in 2002 when he was tapped to investigate the collapsed energy giant Enron. In 2006, Powers became the 28th president of the University of Texas at Austin and embarked on an ambitious effort to focus the school's energies on areas of greatest return. He led the reform of the undergraduate curriculum by establishing rigorous signature courses as mandatory for all freshmen and taught one throughout his presidency. To oversee these and other reforms and to guide students who had not declared a major, he founded the School of Undergraduate Studies. Powers presided over a transformation of large classes, reversing the traditional order of learning, while introducing subjects with online videos and quizzes and freeing class time for deeper discussion. Student success initiatives landed UT Austin on the cover of the New York Times Magazine. As part of a broader conception of student success, Powers created the Division of Diversity and Community Engagement. He also led a multi-year defense of UT's race-conscious admissions policy in the Fisher case, which reached the U.S. Supreme Court. And through collaboration with state and local leaders, Powers succeeded in something not done in the United States in more than 30 years, building a medical school at a Tier 1 university. UT's Dell Medical School began construction in 2014. Midway through his tenure, UT Austin and other national research universities came under fire from critics seeking to cut the cost of higher education by de-emphasizing research and increasing enrollment. Powers defended the research university model on the national stage, and UT's alumni, faculty, and students rallied to defend the university's mission and Powers himself. His peers elected him chair of the Association of American Universities, and he formed the Public Flagships Network. Powers modernized administrative systems and business practices. Additionally, he partnered with ESPN to launch the Longhorn Network. The $300 million contract forming this first-of-its-kind network now funds multiple faculty chairs. Shortly after taking office, Powers launched the most ambitious fundraising effort in the university's history, an 8-year campaign to raise $3 billion. Despite a historic recession, the campaign raised more than $3.1 billion, the most ever by a Texas institution. It funded new faculty chairs and hundreds of new scholarships and dramatically increased the university's holdings in the arts and humanities. During the Powers era, UT built 13 major new buildings and dramatically renovated almost 2 million square feet. These structures help students learn in project-oriented ways and allow for more collaborative research. The 9 years of the Powers administration have been a watershed moment in the university's history. Bill Powers successfully defended its mission and laid the foundation for an even greater future.
37 years ago, I fell in love with UT. A lot went into that, but nothing more than our people. I know all too well what all of you have done for me. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you. God bless you, and hook 'em horns.
Before vaccination, pertussis was the #1 killer of babies in the United States, and it's still a major problem worldwide. The World Health Organization estimates that 200,000 babies die every year from pertussis.
So pertussis is also known as whooping cough, and that's because of the very violent, body-racking coughs that an infant would have. mean, your immune system is just going crazy. You're getting overrun with these bacteria in your lungs.
So a lot of the babies who get really sick, it's so sad they get it from their grandma, they get it from a caretaker. And so it's really important to get vaccinated first of all.
If you have a newborn baby, you do not want them exposed to whooping cough. You're doing everything you can to kind of cocoon them so that they aren't going to be exposed. If they do get it, the problem is that we don't have a lot of ways to help them. Some of the ideas that doctors approach us with is to just hydrate the babies, give them oxygen, help them breathe in some way. Now they're doing stuff like they actually take blood out of the baby's system and remove some of the white blood cells that are clogging up their lungs. You know, having a blood transfusion and filtering the blood and doing all those things. I mean, this is a newborn we're talking about here, right? We're working as hard as we can on making some sort of therapeutic that will actually help babies who do contract the disease or are exposed.
So what we have in our lab is a couple of antibodies, which are molecules of the immune system which bind the pertussis toxin and help to neutralize that toxin. So for these young infants that are too young to get the vaccine, instead we can give them our antibodies to help combat the disease.
We can give a baby an injection and give them instant immunity. Within 5 minutes they'll have more antibodies than they would have if they'd been fully vaccinated. And those antibodies can block the toxin and treat all the symptoms of disease.
Anything that is as close as we can get to mimicking like a human immune system would be the best therapy.
Antibodies are really nice because they're very well accepted by our body because we make them all the time, and we can manipulate them to target different things. Antibody therapeutics can be used for cancer, they can be used for infectious disease, they can be used for a variety of different problems that we encounter.
When I was in graduate school, I was working on antibodies to neutralize anthrax toxin. I met some people who were working on pertussis, and they said, oh, well, pertussis is really a problem because it's coming back and there's nothing we can do for it. And so everything that we did with anthrax, we were able to translate to the pertussis problem. I really think of our research labs as being like little startup companies, but we're fortunate that we don't have to do everything by ourselves because UT gives us all of this support and infrastructure. And that's what's different than if you're in a company. And being able to do whatever we want and follow what we think is important. And then also take it the whole way from the beginning of the idea actually until you get to clinical trials.
I think we're definitely coming up with something that'll be easily implemented and will affect a lot of people across the world.
So we want to make sure that whatever we come up with at the end is really going to have impact.
Enter any classroom at Goldsmith Hall and you feel it, an overwhelming creative exuberance. This passion for design is shared by the entire architecture school, most notably UT's Dean of Architecture, Dr. Frederick Fritz Steiner.
I was interested in design from the time I was a child. I was always drawing. When I was an undergraduate, I read a book called Design with Nature, which was written by a man named Ian McHarg. And that's when everything came together, that I realized that there's an approach to design in its broadest sense that could be based on nature and natural processes. I've been active in sort of green design movement ever since.
Fritz has authored his own creative philosophy called Design for a Vulnerable Planet. The premise of the book says that architecture must assume responsibility for the cities we inhabit, and that design is much more than simple aesthetics.
Architecture needs to move away from sort of a great object and great man mentality to making the world a better place for all of us to live. It's the first time in human history over half the planet lives in cities. Currently in the United States, buildings use 50% of the energy used, and they also produce approximately 50% of the greenhouse gases. So it's imperative that we design in a more responsible way.
But it's much more than just energy consumption. Flawed design can have disastrous repercussions.
One of the best examples, of course, is Hurricane Katrina. It was a natural disaster which was made worse by the failure of the levees. Earthquake areas, look at flooding. It could be fairly easy to design in such a way to avoid dangerous spots. So I think there's been a growing awareness that we could design our cities in a very different way.
Of the University of Texas at Austin,
I shall abide
by the core values
of the university
and uphold academic integrity.
Honor Texas, honor the code.
Hook 'em.
Hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em horns.
Now more than ever, we live in a information, knowledge, and innovation economy. The progress and the success is going to be based on innovations that come out of universities today. We will not compete in the world unless we are at the very forefront of creating and applying new knowledge. The university is a beacon for research, and we impart that as part of our educational mission to our students. And I think that sets UT apart. The students that are here are learning how to solve problems, how to advance knowledge, and it's a foundation on which future generations will rely to make the world a better place. One of the great features of the University of Texas is the breadth of the experiences that our students can have. From engineering to the sciences, to the arts, to literature, to the professions. There's something palpable about being a long one. Students don't quite know where it's going to lead, but they know it's going to lead to something special. My vision for the University of Texas is that it be the best public university in the nation. And by doing that, it does better than any other university, making the state and the country better through the people, the students who are educated, and the researchers who go out and make this a better world. Together, we will change the world.